The Knights of Ren podcast is brought to you by Cool Stuff Inc., your source for Star Wars Destiny singles, sealed product, and more. Check them out at coolstuffinc.com.
Show me again the power of the darkness.
D20 Radio, where gamers roll. D20radio.com. Welcome back, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the Knights of Ren, episode 211. With me are Rick and Jay. Welcome to the show, you guys. How's everybody doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good.
I am also good.
Awesome. This week, Jay went to his local event, and he's going to give us a quick tournament report, and then we're going to jump into a bunch of news that came from FFG this week. So, what'd you see this week, Jay?
So, back at Eudaimonia, my usual stomping ground, and we had only a meager 7 people, including me, which kind of stunk. But we did have another new face. It seems like every event I meet at least 1 new or 2 new players, and that's really exciting. And he even said that he got into the game because he listened to our podcast, and we talked about deck lists that didn't require legendaries that inspired him to try it out, because he felt like the game would probably be, you know, only Vaders and whatnot. So that was kind of cool to hear that listening to us piqued his interest, and then I got to meet him in person. Pretty cool guy. I was rocking Kylo Dooku, pretty close to the tiny list, more or less. I had a first round bye, seems to be my MO. Some of the other lists that were running around, there was Ebala Django, there was Michael with his Rebel Trooper Hired Gun E Akbar list, there was Qui-Gon E Leia. That deck was pretty cool. He did fairly well. And then the most interesting deck was Nathan's deck, who actually won the event, and he was using double Tusken Raider Phasma. And he was rolling, like, if Worlds was yesterday, Nate would have won. His rolls were, like, godlike is not even the right word for it. It was just absolutely absurd. His Tusken Raiders rolled 3s on their initial rolls like they were being paid to. It was just, like, complete and utter devastation. And meanwhile, I'm re-rolling Dooku to discard for resource sides into 2 discard for resource sides, and just like, head in my hands. So yeah, round 2 I played against the new gentleman Curtis, playing the Ebala list, and because I've played so much of the deck, I don't even pause when I play against it and know when to apply pressure and who to hit and all that stuff. And so I also got both of my force throws out in the first 2 turns, so that caused him a lot of stress. And then I kept baiting him with my holocron, and I explained to him after the match that he probably shouldn't have been focusing so much removal on my holocron when I was also showing, like, threatening damage and so on. But again, he hasn't gotten to play as much as he'd like, and he was still getting used to the deck, but he still played pretty decent overall. But I took the win from him on that one. And then in the finals, it was against that Phasma double Tusken. At least half of my dice for both Kylo and Dooku, I'd always roll that 1 damage, and he would just Guardian it away, and I'd lose a die immediately. So that was frustrating, spread between the 2 Tuskens. He dealt crippling damage to Kylo right off the bat. Kylo had 10 damage on him after the second turn. He had the battlefield, so on turn 3, you know, he had decent shots of punching out Kylo before I could actually roll a resolve, which he did. So I was pretty much only playing with Dooku, just like grasping for straws, and I actually survived for quite a while because that's what Dooku does. But in that match, my opening hand was Mind Probe double Feel Your Anger, which I was feeling for sure, and like Force Strike and Intimidate. And so I managed to turn 1, focus into some money, and then hard cast the Mind Probe going in for round 2, but it wasn't enough. So it was valuable experience for me in just seeing how god-awful I can draw that deck from. And one thing I'm actually curious about too, and maybe I'll ask you too, but like, Feel Your Anger is such a weird card, because it's very feast or famine. It's it's not a reliable removal in the sense that, like, you can expect it. I mean, he was rolling DH17s, which was helpful, and he did roll at least on average one miss a roll, but even then, like, I mean, sure, at its worst with a target, you know, Feel Your Anger can remove a die for one, which is like flank, or like potentially is stronger than electroshock if the requirement is met, and then beyond that it's super good. But I don't know, maybe my opponents just roll better than me against me, but I rarely see those heavy miss rolls when I have the card, so I need to test with it more. But having two in my hand is also really frustrating, and two of my mulligans were into two of them.
Yeah, I think it's a card that generally is more going to push an advantage than dig you out of a hole. So when your opponent rolls real bad, rolls a lot of misses, and you can wipe out their strongest dice at one cost, it's really good. But if they're rolling hot, it's not going to save you at all. And you're going to keep it, and you're not going to discard it because you remember all those times when you get rid of 3 dice with it, and then you just never actually end up playing it, or playing it, you know, to an effective point. So the problem is that mono blue does need a little bit of help in the dice manipulation aspect. I mean, you have isolation, things like that, but you're not going to be able to roll flank in a 2-character mono blue list. Just because you'll never be able to get it off. You know, all those other cheap ones, you don't get the yellow he doesn't like use, or electroshocks, things like that. So it's kind of a best of a small card pool that you can use for it.
I really love that card. I do agree it doesn't really give you advantage, it just presses advantage. But I think it's better than Electroshock when it gets used, because even if it's a 1-for-1, you still get to pick whatever you want, whereas Electroshock, you have to have a yellow character alive, and you have to pull something that's 2 or less. And when you get that, you know, blank and somebody rolls a 3 something or a 4 something, you can actually get rid of it, whereas you're sitting on Electroshock that you really want to get rid of that number, but you can't. I like sitting on Feel Your Anger 1 to 2 turns. If it just doesn't happen at that point, it's time to get rid of it, because you've essentially had a 4-card hand for 2 turns, and not having options for that long is devastating. True, you're hoping someone rolls a blank or poorly, and it's tough. I usually don't run it very consistently unless I'm running Immobilize in the same deck, because that combination is really brutal. Generally, you get a 2-for-1 because you blank something out, and you get one of two options. If someone has 1 blank and you use Immobilize to blank second die, whatever it is, your opponent will generally either reroll, or if they don't reroll, that's a fairly big tell that the cards in their hand they desperately need. So now you've gained multitudes of information that you should definitely try and hit their resource pool, and you now can pop off Feel Your Anger for a 2-for-1 if they didn't mitigate their dice, and get rid of those blanks. And there are the very rare times, it does happen, but every once in a blue moon, someone will just roll out and get all blanks or a majority of blanks, and you just eat their turn for 1 resource, and that is absolutely devastating. But once again, you know, it is a high risk, high reward card. But in mono blue, I would totally run it. Maybe not 2 if you're not enjoying what it does, but I would always run 1, just because a 1-for-1, anything you want with no restriction is fairly strong, I think.
Yeah, I like the card, and I agree with everything both of you said. Like, you know, it's a necessary evil, haha, for running a 2 list in mono blue. It'll be interesting. I mean, we don't know any of the cards coming up, but it's one of those cards where it's like, would I be using this, you know, once we have more removal options going forward? And again, like, sometimes you get the blowout, and it's disgusting. I mean, the earliest time I ever played the card, my opponent's entire roll was blanked, and I just basically skipped his turn. But that's, you know, not reliable. It doesn't happen all the time. I feel like I'm the one rolling the blanks most of the time, so play it against me, I guess. But yeah, I think the card's good. It's just, yeah, like I describe it, you know, feast or famine and whatnot. But overall, good event. I want to talk briefly, you know, I'm sure it ran in some of your heads, like, why was the event so small? You know, there will always be those, like, game doomsayers and so on. But I think some of the factors were, it's getting towards the end of this, like, air quote, like, season for the spring kit, and people really aren't, clamoring even for the resource tokens in my area. A lot of people have won them. Not a lot of people like or play Kylo, so I can understand that they just would rather just do something else on their Saturday or just not want to make the trip. Also, the area where my game store is, parking is really expensive on the weekends, annoyingly, but I use the public transportation, so it doesn't hurt me. But I understand all these factors, so I don't think my area is in trouble. I mean, we have like 40 people in the surrounding area that play, and again, there's always new people popping up, which is awesome. So I was a little bummed because if we didn't have 6, we couldn't have played. It worked out, and I think new set, new prizes, new everything will be the shot in the arm. Also, I know a particular person that I won't name didn't show up because of Zelda. Chud. So, all those kinds of factors. So if you heard that and you thought like, wow, because I've been listing numbers averaging in the teens, and some of our events are up to the 20s and 30s. I just think there's a little bit of bloat. There's a little bit of, I don't think the prizes are bad, but they're not the most exciting. It'd be interesting to see what else, they release next time. We've seen that BB-8. Yeah, we've seen his Altar Arabesh card. And then also I'm still waiting for it in a couple of the FFG articles. There's art used of Kylo blocking 3 blaster shots, and I swear that's going to be extended art immobilized, and it'll be amazing. So
yeah, you bring up a good point about being the end of the quote-unquote season here, having a little bit of impact on how many people are showing up for the events, because a lot of people have, like you said, have won the prizes or don't necessarily want the prizes that are available right now. And, it happens in most CCGs that once a new set hits, you get a big turnout to the tournament, and as, everybody has collected the cards that they want or what have you, it slowly wanes as it gets further on in the year. I think once the distribution issues have been fixed and we have more product to where it's not just being sold out as soon as it comes in, and shops in local areas can do packs for prizes and stuff like that, you'll see a lot more people coming out on a more regular basis to win more than just the FFG prize kit stuff.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of doom and gloom on the internet, but it's not coming from multiple sources. It's coming from a very small group of individuals. And another thing to consider is we're coming into con season, and we're also coming into a lot of regionals for other major CCGs. So for example, I live in Florida, go to Cool Stuff Inc. I, hang out there and play a lot of games. And this week was really rough on Destiny because we had PAX, and I know a lot of people who went to that. There was a Pokemon regional or national last weekend, so people are coming back home from that. There's a big con, there's like an anime con this weekend. Basically the point I'm getting to is there's a lot of things going on and happening that people who play Destiny also participate in. Also, for example, a lot of people I know out here got the Switch. Surprisingly, a lot of my friends picked it up, and guess what, they're hanging out together and playing Zelda and 1-2 Switch and that other artsy craftsy game where you can turn into different shapes and whatnot. And if they've got an entire set, or they've got all the heroes they want, or like Jay has said, they've already won the promos and the Arabesh cards and the tokens, they don't need to win anything, and so they're off doing other things, and they show up for weekly free play events, but they may or may not show up for tournaments because they don't necessarily need to win anything in particular. So the issue is not that we're having a problem with influx of players, it's just people are playing at their own level, and I think it's really not a big deal. In fact, we actually, like Jay, we've had quite a few new players come to these events, ask questions, learn about the game. I'm actually teaching like 3 or 4 people next week who saw us playing, were asking questions, and they're interested in the game and they want to learn more before buying into the game. So there's plenty of people who are interested in the game. There's plenty of new people coming through. I don't think anyone in my area is sold out. In fact, most people are helping other other players get collections. So it's still a healthy environment. It's still a healthy meta, but because there are, conventions coming up, lots of events for Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, all these regionals, nationals are happening around the United States. Even Force of Will, I know a guy who's going out to Georgia for Force of Will, and it's during a tournament for Destiny, and he's like, hey, I'll be there next week, but I won't be able to make the tournament. So, just something to consider. Most CCG players who play at tournament levels play multiple tournaments, and they float around the area playing multiple different games. So earlier this week, we had a announcement from FFG. They gave us some spoilers and news about an April 1st and 2nd pre-release for Spirit of Rebellion. So we want to talk about that and get into the details. So what do you guys think about the announcement?
I mean, it's great that they're continuing with the pre-release. It seems a little limited this time around, being able to only get 3 booster packs per person, but I don't think that's too crazy. A lot of people were limiting the number of packs that you could get for the Awakenings pre-release event to 6 anyway, and usually the people that wanted to buy more were able to buy more after. So we'll see, just based on turnout to the event, and if you get the full amount to support just 3 packs per person, that's great, because you got a lot of people in your area wanting to play. If not, you should be able to buy more and maybe get 6 to 9 of them. It's just good that they're continuing with the pre-releases. I think it's a little early because they still haven't announced an actual release date for it. So it just makes me wonder when the release is going to come, just judging off of when they did the pre-release event for Awakenings and how soon after the set actually hit the shelves.
I think it's cool that it's happening so soon. I feel as though that this is kind of a shot in the arm that the game could really use to get us to talk about a lot of stuff, because that's going to reveal a huge amount of the game so that we can continue to talk and get a feel for like the direction and what kind of cool stuff is coming. And so I find it really exciting. I'm also still hoping for more articles and ideas from FFG themselves and all that stuff, but I like these super casual events where, like I've been to pre-releases that were like mini tournaments or like booster drafts or all that, but I just like just bring some decks, open your packs, maybe you can slip in the cards and just again meet people, and it's not a very competitive environment, which I think is what these need, because it can be tough when you're still trying to learn a game and get the hang of it, and like hyper competitive people, we're going to be able to look at a lot of the cards and go like, yep, that replaces this, or I don't find that card great, and it won't phase them as much. But for like newer and inexperienced players, I mean, they just want to grab cards, they just want to play what looks fun, and they don't want to have to feel like they've made a bad call or whatever. If they just want to play a character that they think is cool, which I think Destiny supports really well already, but I'm just saying I like that it garners that kind of atmosphere and attitude. And I am running one of these events, and then I'm helping run another one, so I look forward to just people having a good time and cracking stuff and seeing who gets those 50/50s on legendaries.
I have like a half and half feeling towards it. Like I like some of it, I don't like other parts of it. I like the fact that it's happening soon. We really needed something, because people who aren't in the game, when I tell them there's a pre-release event, they're actually kind of pique their interest to learn the game before the pre-release. There's a lot of people in the community who definitely want to see more product, us included, so that's great. The fact that we only get 3 booster packs, I'm also 50-50 on that. Part of me is happy, part of me is not. I would love to see more, because you're only going to get 3 rares, which you may or may not even be able to use, unless you bring your entire collection with you to actually slot those rares into a viable deck. So it's one of those things where it's like, we are going to see more product, we're going to get more product, but we're not getting hardly any. So it's kind of a bummer and a hooray moment where it's like, yes, I have 15 new cards, I only can use 2 of them. Darn it, like that kind of thing. I do think the casual aspect is phenomenal. There were, in the previous pre-release, a lot of very competitive people, and you could definitely tell that the people who were casual or just wanting to see what this game was were kind of ostracized because, you know, the people who had seen the previews and played on TTS and done all their homework were leaps and bounds ahead of people who were just figuring out like what actions were and what a modified die side was versus a non-modified die. So the fact that this can be used very easily as a teaching environment, or, you know, a great place to bring new people in and, here, borrow my deck. I'm going to teach you how to play this game. And if you're interested, you can buy some booster packs and you can win some promos. Like, that's great. I think that's a wonderful environment for all players of all levels. Another thing, I thought this was weird personally. So, and I'm just thinking as someone who's never played this game, if you show up to the event and say you bought the 3 booster packs and you got the Arabesh promo of Overkill, if you don't know what this game is, I feel like it's a little jarring to get a promo with Arabesh on it because you're probably not going to know what this does. Easily enough, the Death Trooper and Overkill are standard, but the one with the picture of the shuttle actually has text on it, and even we who play the game, if I was hoping there would be some kind of English translation, otherwise you have a card where you don't actually know what it does, and if someone doesn't pull it at your event, you're kind of like, I'm not sure what this card says. So I'm hoping FFG sends some kind of translation with that so people aren't sitting on a card that's unclear. But yeah, overall, I think this was a good play. People are desperately needing and wanting and desiring not only more product, but they want to see FFG, you know, bring their distribution to a new level where you can get your hands on product. And the 3-pack limitation isn't bad because some stores during the Awakenings pre-release said you can buy however much you want. Just please be nice to the people behind you. And so it was unlimited. Like, you could walk in and just buy a box or 2 if you wanted. People just happen to be nice and buy like half a box. So the fact that FFG has specifically limited this to 3 means lots more people will have a chance to get their hands on the packs instead of the first 8 people. And that happened a lot during pre-releases, is like the first 8 people bought everything, but the line was like 40 people long. And so right off the bat, people are getting turned away from a game they're interested in because the product was sold out. Now this is great because more people have access to more product. More people are going to play games. More people are going to talk about the game. More players will interact. There will definitely be trading, and that is really healthy for any card game, but especially Destiny, since it's such a small group right now. This will definitely help grow the exposure and the player base. So I think it's great. I really do. To recap the event and the announcement, if you didn't see the article, there is a mission brief picture on the FFG website, and we're just going to go over what you can win. You can get the Death Trooper Arabesh promo if you deal 4 range damage at one time, or you bring an extra deck with you to the event. You can get the Baze Overkill promo by purchasing 3 booster packs or having 6 resources in your pool at a single time. And then you can win the promo Shuttle Arabesh card by playing 2 games as either a hero or playing 2 games as a villain. Anyone can get their hands on the promos. It's not extremely difficult. There will only be 12 copies of each promo per pre-release kit.
There's 3 kits with 3 booster boxes included in each package. So there'll be 36 of each one of these promos at any event that you go to.
So there you go. That's good news. They're not excessively limited like the previous Ray promos, but that's just something you should definitely know is, you know, don't show up super late if you're interested in anything in particular. Get there as early as you can to your event. One big tip we can definitely give you is call your local store, find out which day and what time they're running the event, and sign up way ahead of time. You definitely want to get your name on that list so that way you can get into the event and you can definitely secure yourself either booster packs or promos or both, depending on what you're interested in. But don't delay. It's not one of the things that you're just going to want to show up, you know, an hour or 2 after the event starts. You know, get there early, get your name on the list, tell your friends to get their names on the list. You know, just make sure that people are aware that the event is happening and they're signing up. So that way the store will definitely know what the interest for the game is, and they can base their pre-orders for when the set comes out, you know, ahead of time, instead of what people did with Awakenings and they were trying to guess. Get signed up, talk to your store owner, you know, let them know that you guys are interested, and it's going to go really well. I'm very excited about these events.
What you have to do to get the promos is I think pretty cool what they did there. Bringing an extra deck allows people that haven't gotten into the game to be able to participate in the pre-release. You're probably going to buy the 3 booster packs anyway, so 6 resources, which is pretty hard to get to, isn't limiting really. And then you're really just playing 2 games. As long as you're playing with the same deck, you're going to get the other promo. It's a pretty well-designed pre-release for, especially as a casual learn to play, get new people to play type situation. Y'all want to talk about the cards?
So in the announcement, we see Death Trooper as one of the promos, which we've seen before. We know what Death Trooper does. He's 4 damage sides, a disrupt and a miss, 10 health, 10 cost. So he's a beast. A lot of people are already excited for him for Krennic, excited for him for making the 3 trooper list. Do you know you don't get the die? You just get the cards with these, but it'll be cool to have these, especially a card like that where he doesn't really have any relevant text on him. I know a lot of people kind of argue back and forth on Arabish. I think Arabish is cool. I think there's a universal language for the game, and it's neat, and you should know what the cards do anyway. But anyway, that's not what we're talking about. We also have the shuttle card. Unfortunately, and kind of weirdly, for Command Shuttle, they covered it up, so we don't know what some of the die faces do, which is kind of silly to me. I don't know it knowing that hurts, but that's what they decided. But what we do mostly know is use the special effect of one of your characters. That seems kind of neat. It costs 3. Sure, it's a support. We're still kind of waiting for supports to sort of, come into their own. It's the same cost as a TIE Fighter, and TIE Fighter, as much as I would love it to, does not see a lot of play. So unless this guy, brings a lot of damage or something, I don't know. I mean, it's neat. It's neat to see a blue ship, Maybe we'll see some other cool stuff in the future or in the set, or who knows.
I mean, it seems like it'd be decent with the new Vader, except for the fact that new Vader doesn't have a resource side, so it's going to be hard to get the 3-cost support out there because you can't use it binds all things. You can use Enrage to help get it out, but then you're dealing more damage to your Vader, or possibly whoever else you bring him with if they're blue too. But being able to trigger Vader's ability, his special side, multiple times in a round seems pretty decent, depending on what the other sides of this die are. Like if they're damage or if they're resources or shields or whatever. Shields would be great to help feed that using special on Vader, since you can block that damage with the shields that he does to himself. So, I mean, it's interesting. It seems a little high costed, especially going from what we're looking at now in Blue Villain with holocron and it binds all things and stuff like that. Supports just don't seem like they need to be in that deck, but maybe we'll see some more stuff that comes out that makes this even better.
I don't know what to think. There's a lot of things that could combo well with, but like you said, it's very expensive. I find it really interesting that, this card is kind of in the influx of, do I really want to play it or do I not want to play it because of the 3-drop? And the game of Destiny is so unique because one resource heavily swings the playability of a card. One of the cards I'm thinking about that costs you 3 that's amazing is Reversal. You can just hurt people. You get to eat a die. You get to deal damage equal to the number on that die. You don't need to spot a yellow character. You just do a thing and it hurts super bad. But it costs you 3 resources. It's essentially, it's a turn and a half in game economy, not including if you happen to roll resource sides. And this shuttle is kind of the same thing. Like if you look at the mission brief, kind of cheat, use control and zoom in on the card, you can see that the bottom 3 parts of the card are a blank and 2 specials. So as far as we know, unless there's a 3rd special, 1/3 of the die you're going to be able to trigger and then pop off one of your character's specials. At this point, we're looking at, Kylo Ren, Veers, stuff like that, where you actually have a resolvable special. And I would love to play this with Kylo and roll 2 Kylo and, 1 or 2 of this and get to look at 3 cards in my opponent's hand and deal damage equal to the number of cards. It's like Super Scout. You don't get to eat the card, but you still get to know what your opponents are playing and turn that into damage. And resolving those specials doesn't cost you any resources. So it's economically incredibly strong. But I mean, I don't want to pay 3 resources for this card. I really would like to pay 2, but then the card would feel very powerful and probably too powerful. So it's just interesting, the dynamic of balance of the card's inherent power versus the cost of the card, and your deck's ability to not only generate resources, but spend those resources to play cards, mitigate damage, and pay for your damage, because Kylo has the 2-for-1 side. So now you have to consider lots of different things when running these decks. So it's a brilliant design. It's just I feel like the card is probably not going to see a lot of play, unfortunately, just because it's expensive.
I mean, you could always live the dream and have your opponent sitting with 1 ATST in his hand, and you got 2 Kylo dice on specials and this on special, and deal 18 damage in 1 action, right?
That would be great.
Yeah.
Will it ever happen? Probably not. But I mean, it's speculation on the card because we only know half. We don't know the other side, so who knows? I mean, those die faces could be really good. They might not. I don't know, but it's an interesting card. So moving on to Overkill. This is my favorite card of the announced pre-release promos. This card is just bonkers good, I think.
It's the only card announced, technically.
Fully announced, but yeah.
Yeah,
That's
Overkill
fair.
is bonkers. It is like, there's so much going for this card. It's an ability, so this card can't be disarmed. We still don't have currently options on bouncing out ability upgrades, so this card avoids disarm, which is interesting. This card can also be targeted by rearm. Some of my friends play Akbar Leia or Akbar Trooper hired gun, and they were clamoring like, God, we need another red gun or red something offensively. This is pretty much what they dreamed for. 4 damage sides. It's crazy. You can rearm it back on for 1. This is a pretty gross card for 1. And then furthermore, this synergizes with the it's a trap ranged like insta gib. So this card's pretty absurd. It's hero only, so this is probably going to sort of help swing the balance. Again, hero's not the worst. There are some good heroes decks running around, etc., but there's still some common feeling that the game is a little more favored on villains, and I think this is a big swing in the other direction. Even though it's only modified sides, I still think there's a lot of options already that heroes have to sort of guarantee that they can get the shot off, like Leia's absolutely bonkers die, or all the focus that Leia and Akbar bring, and so forth. There's a lot of ways to secure this.
Yeah, it's definitely something that red heroes needed. If you look at the red heroes that we have already, none of them actually have modified range damage sides on them, so it'll be very easy to get this off. Probably more easy than Jetpack is, and more consistent if you're looking for damage than Jetpack.
What really excites me about Overkill is just a lot of things. So first of all, this is the burst damage that heroes really needed. This is +1, +2, +3, +3 range damage modified size. So you have to resolve it with something else. Oh no. But the nice thing about red heroes is they actually have a really consistent damage side. Usually it's like 1-1-2 or 1-2-2 or 1-2 and pay 2 or something like that. But the fact of the matter is they have consistent damage. It's just low. So this is something you can tag onto a character, and now you can turn them into a really, really nasty card. Actually, the first time I saw this, I thought about Han and Hired Gun, because now you could deal 6 damage for 1 resource if you god rolled. And that is no joke. That is scary damage.
Where are you getting the red from, though?
Oh, well, you would run them with a red character, obviously.
Oh, okay. Like a trooper.
Yeah, you could run Overkill with, you can run it with a trooper, you can run them with a Leia, you can run them with an Akbar. Obviously, you have to run it with a red character, but you can take these already potentially scary characters that have a lot of damage on them, put a red character in with them, and now you're able to potentially swing for, hey, if you could do 6 for 1 every turn, that's 12 damage for 2 resources, turn 2. Not many characters are going to survive that. Now, obviously, you have to make enough money to play 2 of these cards and whatnot, but the point is your damage output potential is really high, and you only need 2 dice to do it. You know, when you're talking about Django Veers, Balatik, and all that stuff, when you do this bursty damage, you generally have to resolve 3 or so dice. And it happens. It's gonna happen in these decks, but the whole point of Destiny is consistency and efficiency. So the fact that you can deal, 5 damage for no resources, or 6 damage for 1 resource, and you're only using 2 dice, that's phenomenal amounts of economy and damage. But another thing that this combos well with, which we haven't seen a majority of, is like removal events. So like Surgical Strike is going to be much more viable, because now you have a die that rolls high enough ranged numbers, you can start to destroy people's supports. So if you're having to stare down a Millennium Falcon, you can use this in conjunction with something else and pop it off pretty reliably. The new card Rebel Assault that comes out in Spirit of Rebellion, the one that says play only if you have 1 or more dice showing range damage, remove an opponent's die not showing damage. This is a really strong combination, because this card is only showing damage. So unless you roll a blank, you're sitting on a modified side. If you can't resolve it, you're still fulfilling the requirement to play Rebel Assault. And Rebel Assault for red is a super duper good removal event, because we see a lot of things that are not necessarily damage. Hey, here's some discard, here's some disrupt, here's a special. Red isn't inherently good with removal, but it's really great with showing ranged damage sides. And so you're going to be able to more consistently play Rebel Assault, and for 0 resources, and that's a big thing, remove dice you don't want to deal with that aren't damaged. That's amazing. And like you said, it combos with It's a Trap. So can you imagine if you happen to have 2 of these on the field, and say you equip it to a Finn or a Leia, somebody rolls a ranged damage side, cool. For ambush, you turn Leia to her 2 damage, you turn the 2 overkills to +3, you're looking at 8 damage for free. You don't have to pay any resources to resolve that 8 damage. That's scary. I mean, even with Poe Dameron, the 3 for 1, you can do 9 damage for 1 resource using 3 dice. The burst potential is strong. I like it. I like it a lot.
For those who are looking closely, we got one more kind of spoiler, and this kind of makes me laugh because I feel like FFG is torturing me a little, because I mentioned in one of our earlier episodes, if there was a character that I wanted to see in the game, it was definitely IG-88, and we saw that foreign contest where you could guess his stats and abilities, and then now we get to see half of his card and half of his die, and we got to see his health, so it's pretty cool that he's got 12 hit points. That's a sturdy dude. And then his damage sides are 2 range and 3 range, so he's got the Vader suite, if you will, or the Luke suite, depending on how you look at it, but you don't have to pay for either of them. He has 1 shield, and then the die that they're showing shows a special side, and the die have been inaccurate in the past, but I have a feeling they've probably gotten better about that, so I'm going to assume that the special side is accurate. We have no idea what it does, but that technically leaves argumentatively 2 sides left. I'm going to assume he has a miss, and the other side is either resource, or he could be like Vader, and he might not make money either, but he has a lot of damage and a lot of health, which is pretty exciting for me. I am a little bummed thematically. I almost kind of wish he wasn't unique, because IG-88 isn't unique. Obviously, I would think he'd probably have different stats if you could run a whole suite of him, but obviously, to conform to the rules of the game, he has to be unique if he wants to have the 2-die version, and I don't think it ruins him, but it's just a funny little flavor thing that we were wondering how he was going to translate into the game. I'm excited. Obviously, gotta wait till we see how much he costs and what the other sides do, but he already looks like he hits pretty hard, and I love my yellow dice, and the art's really cool. I like the art for him, so we get to see some of it. I'm curious when we get to see all of it.
We here at the Knights of Ren are super proud to announce that we are a sponsor of the Steel Open 2017 happening April 7th through 9 in Herndon, Virginia. You can find out more information at steelopen.com, where you can find out the events for not only Destiny, but X-Wing, Armada, and so much more. And you can also register yourself for this 3-day amazing private event. Definitely check this out if you're interested in Destiny or any kind of Star Wars tabletop events. This is the premier place to check out games and get ready for Worlds, because this is happening 1 month before Worlds. You don't want to miss out. SteelOpen.com. So we're really excited about this event. We've got, some spoilers from FFG already. Hopefully we'll see something else because, hey, this thing is happening in 2 weeks. So it's really, really exciting. Couple of things as we wrap up the show. We definitely want to mention March 14th is when the tickets go on sale. So if you're interested in going to the event, please, 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 please be prepared. It's $70 per person for the Destiny event. So if you're interested in that, go to the FFG website, get a bookmark, set an alarm, do whatever you need to, but it has sold out in the past. We don't know how large the event will be for this year, but we can pretty much guesstimate it's going to be either sold out or very, very tight. So don't wait, don't delay, get your ticket. Another couple of things we would like to mention. Thank you once again. Big shout out to all of our Patreons. We have started the ordering for our playmats for Wave 1. They should be shipping out either late March, early April. However, if you have just joined us or you decided you definitely wanted a playmat, we're going to be doing waves of shipments for those who didn't get their hands on them. So we're going to start Wave 2. We're going to be shipping those out late May, early June, so you can go over to our Patreon and sign up for those if you're interested. We also would like to mention we have been nominated by the Star Wars Podcasting Awards for 2 awards, the Best Gaming Show and the Best New Show of 2016. So in the show notes, we're going to provide a link where you can go and vote. You have to sign in with your Google account, but it's really easy. It takes about 2 minutes tops, and we would just really appreciate if you take a quick second and vote for the Knights of Ren for those 2 topics. And thank you everyone once again for joining us. It has been a great week. We are so excited for all these events coming up soon. Another thing to be sure of, the Steel Open is going to be happening early April. So if you're getting ready, if you're excited, give us a shout out, let us know what you're running, and we've got all kinds of ideas and stuff we're going to be talking about soon to help get you guys ready for these events. Steel Open, Worlds, Gen Con. Later in the year, we've got the Nova Open. We are so excited that all these conventions and events are starting to come together, and we're going to be able to meet you guys at some of those. So with that being said, thank you for joining us. Have a great week, and may the Force be with you.